never giving back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner.
Man, I'm confident in our offense, that's for sure.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube as we go for our quest to 2,000. And when we reach 2,000 subscribers, we will donate an additional $100 to the mental health, the Natural Alliance of Mental Illness. There we go. The National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI. And we are donating a portion of all the money that we make out to that great cause. So PayPal, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing good, Brad. Yeah, it's getting towards the end of the week. So, sometimes just slow your words, it's tired, long day of work, who knows. But, yeah, I saw you brought the lawnmower out. You had a good time. There's nothing like the smell and the sound of lawn mowing. Like I walked into work yesterday and they were mowing the lawn and I was like, oh my gosh. Like I knew it was gonna be a great day because the smell, just the sound, everything. It's just like it feels like summer now being up here, in Wisconsin.
It's like, okay, it's May. It needs to be, it actually needs to be summer or spring and start warming up. But yeah, the lawn was getting long, decided to go out there, mow some lawn. And yeah, it felt great to be outside a little bit more. And I'm pretty sure we're supposed to get some great weather. But ladies and gents, we went through the draft last time and we talked about our draft grades. Today, how can we fill out this roster? We are breaking down the top available free agents. What we're going to do, first break down just some offensive needs, then defensive needs, and then our top 3 available free agents that we really like, that we want the Bears to get. And last but not least, we'll break down some potential trades. So some people that aren't out there on the free agent market that could be available via trade and actually not really leave via free agency. So we'll be breaking it all down. But PayPal, the first question that I have for you, because this is something that it feels good. We technically don't even have to break this down, but might as well ask the question from an offensive needs perspective. When we go into free agency and in this free agency period, right? The Bears have $36 million in estimated cap space. We have a lot of cap. Is there anybody that we need on the offensive side of the ball, or how are you feeling with that?
Brad, I don't know what we could fill in the offensive, side of the field. Like maybe get a center, but there's not really a better center than, having Cody Whitehair. And from what it sounds like, the Bears, I think that's who they're going to stick with at center this year. So, hey, better than Mustafa. That's all that matters for us. Anything will be better than him. But yeah, we got that right tackle, which was the biggest need for this offense. I mean, not saying it was obviously it was terrible with Borum, but it was like, all right, like we can get way better. He was letting way too many pressures, which just not helping Justin Fields at all. But with Darnell Wright, that is fixed. But we filled all those tiny holes. Like, wide receiver, we needed a little bit more depth, in play for the future as well. Everything's filled out. We got Robert Tonyan for backup tight end, everything. So I'm not too worried about signing a free agent in the offensive side. I think we filled out everything.
I agree with you there. It looks set for all the reasons that you mentioned. And yeah, I know a lot of people are going to be probably bringing up center, right? And do we need a center? I agree with you. I think that Cody Whitehair is the guy. And I think if you look in free agency, there's Ben Jones from Tennessee. And I don't think that he gives you that big of an upgrade over a Cody Whitehair. I've said it on this show. I don't love Cody Whitehair switching to the center position. But still, I like that there's at least some competition. And I think when you look throughout the roster, you're pretty much set at every single position. We have good depth. And also, too, can we stop the Larry Borum hate at swing tackle? Like, I really like him at swing tackle. When he's in, he's not He's like the Nick Kwiatkowski of offensive linemen, where when we had Nick Kwiatkowski, you didn't want him starting, but you felt good when he had to substitute in and
Mhm.
someone went down. Like we saw what happened when Leatherwood was thrown in there and Justin Fields just had to keep on running.
Mhm.
Larry Borum at least gives us a good foundational and cheap swing tackle. And I just don't think that you're going to find someone that can really kind of play at that level. Maybe you look at a couple guards potential. I just think that you're really kind of grasping at straws if you're really trying to think of who would they actually want to bring in.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of on the high side with Whitehair. I just I think he brings the experience that we didn't have with Mustafa. People would talk about Mustafa like he had the highest IQ in the entire world. There were so many times when you'd see him miss assignments like solely because he just wasn't reading anything that the defense was giving him and just missing assignments. It was like besides his lack of strength and holding guy, it was just I'm so glad we got a smart guy in Cody Whitehair, and he's a lot bigger than Mustafar is. At least plays a lot stronger. So
Yeah, so we'll see. And yeah, that's where I think ultimately, do we need anyone for offense? Nah.
nah.
I think we're set. And if one thing I know, Bears Bones said maybe Noah Fant. I mean George Fant. Fant is I like Fant if let's just say Darnell Wright isn't looking great, right? Like you can potentially do something like that, but that is worst case scenario. But he could potentially be a swing tackle. I still a fan of Borum. Is the big piece. So let's talk about the defense, right? The
Mhm.
defense is where we need to break down who are some of these best free agents because this is truly what people care about. Because I think on the defensive side of the football, D line is still the biggest hole. It's we still need to fill some of the stuff in. We can break it down a little bit more, but PayPal D line will definitely address in our top three available. Spoiler alert. But the back seven, linebackers, defensive backs, how are you feeling about our backfield, so to speak?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we got all of our linebackers, probably one of the best linebacking cores in the NFL now. And gosh, we thought Sanborn was going to lock it up at that Sam spot, but hey, Noah Sewell is coming for his job basically. I think he could be one of the biggest uh positives of this draft cuz he just plays with such high energy, high motor, super physical. I really like him. Um, and with the defensive backs, our safeties, I think we're good there. I mean, we still got DHC as our backup, kind of that, if someone does get injured, he will be that substitute. And then we get that guy from Stanford. He could possibly turn out, who knows? Um, and then as well as our corners, I mean, we got Tyreek Stevenson. We filled that hole on the outside corner spot. And Vildor, I think, he kind of proved a little bit last year of like he could have been a starter, but I feel great having him as a backup.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think the only other position that I'm kind of looking at in the defensive, like secondary, especially linebacker, we're set. In the secondary, I'm curious if maybe the Bears try and sign a veteran safety to be a backup, right?
Hmm.
Do you try Crookshank again? Do you bring back DHC, who took kind of a noticeable step back? He seemed a little bit old last year. I think age was kind of catching up to him. Just because you do have Kendall Williamson and Elijah Hicks, two seventh round safeties back there, or do they feel good with Terrell Smith? Kind of, he can play some of that safety, and Tyreek Stevenson, I guess, in a pinch could. But I think overall, I feel good, especially since even though I don't see Tyreek Stevenson as a nickel, he did play that in college. And if there is an absolute pinch, I do think that you have enough people to kind of fill a third nickelback, a slot corner position, if that. So
Hmm.
let's go to defensive line because defensive line, Lord knows this is where we need some help. And PayPal, our top threes are both all defensive linemen. How did you kind of see the Bears' defensive line with all the additions that they ended up adding?
Yeah, I guess one thing is they kind of filled that defensive interior spot. I think they brought the room in with these very young guys, two rookies, no edges, surprisingly. It's like, wow, like who would I thought they would have splashed at least in that, but hey, defensive interior should be good. Hopefully they both hit, but we'll see if you know, if one of them hits and one is a bust. But with that, maybe we might need some more experience at that D tackle spot, um, that nose tackle spot. But yeah, the edges, we'll see. Like because we got these new guys. Bowsby was saying in the comments of we upgraded our defensive interior. Now is it Dominique Robinson? Are these guys on the outside going to be playing a lot better? Travis Gibson actually kind of going to be who he was expected to be last year, where he just produced absolutely nothing last year. Very disappointing season, and we'll see if he kind of goes on the rise as well with this help at the defensive line.
Well, I'll tell you, I feel good about the D tackle spot. I do. With Javon Dexter, Zach Pickens, like kind of for the same points that you were making. And I always point to Green and Walker can both play on that interior spot if in a pinch. So that's where to me, like I feel more than comfortable at the D tackle position. But also, yeah, Dobbsy saying, well, can these defensive ends be a little bit better with the D tackle play? I definitely think so, especially in the run perspective. But I have a couple options. So, PayPal, let's go to our top three available. And I kind of want to ask everyone out there, too, in the chat, who do you want the Bears to sign, especially on this defensive line out there? So, PayPal, who's your number one? Who's the guy that you want over everybody else?
I think this is kind of the obvious one. We kind of hinted at like we don't have we kind of filled that defensive interior, but we need an edge. We need a guy to get to the passer. We need a guy to get sacks. We had no sacks last year. And I think that's Yannick Ngakoue. We talked about him so many times. People are projecting the Bears to sign him. Not just Bears fans, but outside media. And he's a lot of fun with his speed, his power, everything. Obviously, we've talked about him a lot. Not the best run stuffer, but will absolutely produce in his pass rushing game. So he'd be a fun guy to have on this defense and rotate him in with all of our other additions.
Okay. And I like him too. Yannick is also on my list, spoiler alert, but I totally agree with you with Yannick just because, yeah, we have the luxury. We have the cap space. We talked about this at the very early stages of free agency. With all this extra money, why not sign someone who does one thing phenomenally well with Yannick Ngakoue as a pass rusher so he can get to the quarterback? And that's why he's on my list too. But PayPal, let's actually continue going through because I'm very curious. I said this to you, but like in the pre-show, I'm surprised at who you have at number 2 because that's someone I was like, I sent you a couple texts. I was like, you sure you want this guy? Like, are you sure? And you're like, no, he's on my list. So who's your number 2?
Yeah, my number 2 is Akeem Hicks. He is getting older, but man, like I think I'm still having flashbacks of him as being a Bear, like stuffing Dalvin Cook every single year, kind of all that good things. And I think he's still going to be good for a couple snaps. Like I saw him on the Buccaneers. He still had those Keem Hicks plays where you're like, okay, he still has it. He still has those crazy eyes and looks like a good Chicago Bear. I think it's more than a nostalgia factor. It'd be cool to have him back. My question, and honestly, I think of Leonard Floyd as well. Like, would they want to bring in a kind of a Chicago Bear from the old regime? I think Akeem Hicks is a little bit different from Leonard Floyd because at least Akeem Hicks would bring that kind of leadership, that experience, and we all know he's super high character, and that's kind of who the Bears have been looking at. It's a Poles and Eberflus. That's been a very high priority, is high character guys and bringing these championship type of players in. So I think Akeem Hicks could be a fun addition. Not the best addition, but he would be a fun kind of add to the locker room. Maybe teach these young guys, especially Dexter. I mean, Dexter could learn a lot from a guy like Akeem Hicks.
I like it from that. I like it from the mentorship perspective. Like I said before, I think that we're good on the defensive interior. Dobbsy likes it. And yeah, it'll be interesting. I like it definitely from the mentorship. That's a really good point out there with all the young people that we have. This guy knows how to do it. And Dobbsy's asking too, just how do we see the lineup? I think that's going to be the interesting part, right? Because Billings probably more the first and second down, obvious run situations. You're going to have him out there. And I think ultimately where this pans out, I think that the Bears are just going to see who hits, right? And I personally think that Pickens is more of a 3-tech. He has the get off for it, while Javon Dexter is more of that one. I see him. I still see him more of a 1-tech just because the lack of get off. Is that something that you can coach? Is that something you can teach? But they do have some experience playing all the different pieces. I just like Pickens at 3-tech because of his just pure tools.
Yeah, I that's kind of what Gambit was saying of, yeah, we'll test out these guys, see if they fit. But honestly, this defensive line, I'm in for a loop. We have a lot of guys that are versatile, and that's the two guys, Pickens and Dexter, were both guys that could play, honestly, because they're so athletic, could probably technically play on the, defensive ends even, just because they both ran like a 4.9, I believe, or 4.8, or they're athletic defensive tackles. So I like it. But Brad,
Yeah,
I can
let's
shoot off my third guy. This is honestly my favorite guy, and
really.
I
Not a lot of
read
people
it.
talk about him.
I love Dewan Smoot. I really I love him so much. And honestly, the thing that really won me over, and I it was that I was looking at Jaguars fans kind of like Twitter, and I saw this guy on YouTube kind of talk about him. Of, if you talk about Dwan Smoot, I mean, I didn't hear of him besides when I looked him up, but every Jaguars fan knows who this guy is. Like, he's a fan favorite. Everyone loves him. Like, I almost think of almost like how Akeem Hicks was, but obviously he was a lot better and in the Pro Bowl, all that stuff. But everyone knows him, loves his character. Like, there's a couple of mic'd up sessions of him, and he's just hyping all of his teammates up. He's just super high energy. Even when he's on the sidelines, he's like screaming out plays, trying to decipher what the offense is doing. He's just one of those guys that's super engaged in football, and you can tell he loves the game. And honestly, like, again, high character guys is what's gonna honestly win the hearts over for Poles and Eberflus. So, hey, and he's also a good player. We're not just talking about character. The last like 3 seasons, he's averaging like 6 sacks. So he's producing at a decent level. And from what Jaguars fans are saying, they'd be so sad if he left the Jaguars. So
I
that's a
love
good
that.
sign. Yeah.
Now, is it Dewan or Dwayne? It looks like it's spelled Dwayne.
Dwayne.
Okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
I got Dewan Jones on my mind, so I
yeah,
kind of,
I
still.
see you with that. I see you with that. Yeah, Dobbsy loves it too. And so one thing too that we need to talk about. This guy's not on your list, Leonard Floyd, because you talked about reunions. Joseph out there in the comments is saying not Leonard Floyd. Gambit saying Leonard Floyd too small. I agree with them. I think that I wouldn't hate it if they brought him back, but I just don't think that he's like, there's a lot of hype going around him, and there's some rumors like, oh man, look at him. He might be a Bear. I just don't
Yeah.
see it. And I think also too, the rumors, I don't see it from any viable sources. Like, I just see it people saying, oh, Bears are
Screaming
going to
it.
get this. Bears, like, I have a feeling the Bears are going to do this, but it's nothing that's like legit.
Mhm.
So, yeah. that's where to me, I'm just not a big fan of that at least.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah,
agree. Yeah, no, I'm not on. It'd be fun, It'd be like, oh wow, like he's come back to the Bears, but just seeing how, yeah, I agree.
yeah. So let's go over to my list. And here's my list, right? I wanted to go with, so my first one, I'm surprised that there's not a lot of talk with this guy. And I want someone that can be a vet, like you talked about with Akeem Hicks, a veteran that can coach some people up, be a good mentor. This guy's a good person. This guy also has over 100 career sacks and had, let me see what ESPN gave him. I believe it's 9.5 last year. 9.5 last year. And that is none other than Justin Houston. Justin Houston is
Yeah.
my number one, and he has experience with the Chiefs. He has experience with the Colts. I really, really like that. So I think overall, Justin Houston is my number one. I like the idea of bringing in a vet, someone that also can rush the passer and play the run fairly well. So I like his versatility overall at the defensive end spot. And that's why, to me, he's number one.
Yeah, I think he's really good, and it's crazy how old he is, and he's still producing. Um, and I guess it's kind of on the Akeem Hicks thing I was talking about with his age. It'd be nice to mentor these guys. When we lost Khalil Mack, or when we lost God, what is that guy's name? That was Robert Quinn. When we lost him, it was weird
Yeah.
because he didn't produce really. He wasn't getting sacks like at the last year we had him, but he must have had some sort of effect in that locker room or something. Because right as
Good
he
point.
left, that's when we started getting like 0 sacks a game.
Yeah.
Like our defensive, our line wasn't amazing, but like at least we were getting some pressure. And then it was he left, and it was everything just went downhill.
That's why I really like Houston because he always seems to be doing well. And yeah, that's a very good point in the locker
Gambit,
room.
Gambit said it.
Yeah. And you have that guy in the locker room. I just think overall, yeah. And I think though too, so my number two guy, this is someone who I know a lot of people don't necessarily like. There's a hive that hates this pick, but to me, he's number two. And actually, he might have even been my number one guy because I think about Ryan Poles and what he said about bringing in people and putting people in the right position. Travis Gibson and Dominique Robinson, where did they struggle? Against the run. That's where they struggled. They're more pass rushers. And that's why, to me, why not bring in a defensive end that is a run stuffing specialist? You invested heavily in linebackers. So I'm looking at Jadeveon Clowney. You have the money to bring in someone. He's not going to get you 10 sacks. That, like, let's get that out of the way. He's not going to be a phenomenal pass rusher, but he's going to be solid. But where I love him is in that run stuffing. Let's just look at the division. What did the Lions do with their first pick? They went Gibbs. They went running back, right? And they also signed David Montgomery. The Packers don't have don't have a quarterback anymore. They have two running backs though. We need to stuff the run. And then also there's Dalvin Cook still over in Minnesota. To me, get someone that can stop the run in a Jadeveon Clowney. And then what you can see is you can get him to kind of stuff the run, gives your linebackers easier lanes to then make plays and basically make their money's worth. That's why to me, I really like Clowney because he can help your young players be in better position to get some sacks.
Yeah. Yeah, he's another great pick up if we did get him. I always liked him on the Browns. It was crazy how they had him and Miles Garrett. It was just so physical, and he looked so good when we faced him last year. When yeah, was it last year when they got like 12 sacks on us? It was absolutely horrendous. I'm I think that game is like completely thrown out of my mind. Of it was just it's giving like me PTSD almost thinking about it. It was not a good time, but hey, I would love to be able to get him.
Yeah, and my third one is Yannick Ngakoue. where honestly, if I had it my way, I would pick up two of these guys. Justin Houston, Yannick Ngakoue, or Jadeveon Clowney and Yannick Ngakoue, just to get more people out there and have that rotation. I don't think that the Bears are going to have a true starter this year, like a true, like, okay, he's out there all the time. I think they're going to have that cycle. That's what a lot of good teams end up doing. So that's my feeling is I would love to see two people. And also LT Traveler saying Gibson had one sack and both struggled on pass. That's where like Gibson, I'm curious to see if they like Gibson, right? We saw a
Right.
huge step back from him. He did not look great. And that's where I
Yeah.
like, do you still want him? If not, why not bring in some people on a 1 year deal or like Smoot or some of the other people?
Yeah, I think everyone on this defensive line is no one has a secure job. Even I mean, you could kind of say that rookies kind of do for at least 3 years or something, but our edges do not have a secure job. None of them. We don't know if Demarcus Robinson's even going to play. He could be the starter. He could be bench warmer. Who knows? Travis Gibson could be the same thing. So uh, all we can hope for is that they add some guys at the edge. Because if we come into this year and not have additions with this much cap, that's concerning.
And exactly, we have 36 million. I would be shocked. I would be stunned if they didn't sign someone. So who do you want the Bears to sign? I know that out there's still just some of the people we didn't cover. Melvin Ingram, talk about an ageless wonder, kind of like Justin Houston, plays more of the 3-4, but still could slot in. Frank Clark, seeing him in the comments a lot. I've just never been super high on him, but he is someone, yet again, I think he gives you an upgrade over. I'm welcome to any and all additions, basically, at the
Hmm.
defensive end spot to just give some assistance, give some help. And I also think, too, I want to bring up that what about Green that we brought in? I see it. Are you high on him? I just see him kind of like a Al-Qadim Muhammad, where he's a try hard guy, but I don't see him as a like, oh
Yeah,
crap, Green's out there.
I could see him better than all the guys we have right now, though. I could see him
Really?
making a bigger difference than all the other guys. Yeah. Um, I mean, at least he had some productions and getting sacks last year, and
It's
Travis
true.
Gibson only had
It's
one, and
true.
then Demarcus Robinson had like, oh, I remember he got a sack on Trent Williams the first game in the rain. Um, but besides that, I don't really remember him really generating anything. So I think he's the best out of all those guys so far. I mean, he hasn't done anything wrong to screw up my you know point on him.
And Dobbsy in the comments saying Gibson looked a little pudgy in his workout photos. I didn't see those, but I
Mm,
got to look those up. But also, too, I want to mention Dominic Robinson. There's some rumors and some murmurs that he's been working out like crazy. To me, we always get these every single offseason, right? I'm not going to believe it until we see some eyes from reporters saying this guy's looking good when there's pads on. And
yeah.
so that's where I just want to see that. But we did expect him to have more of a jump this year than last year. So hopefully he can make something like that. But let's go over to our last topic of the day. I know in the comments they've already been jumping on this, the trades. Because
Hmm.
if the Bears were to sign anybody, if they don't sign anybody, would they trade for someone? PayPal, the big rumors are it sounds like Washington is trying to get rid of Sweat or Chase Young. And then you brought this up that Carl Lawson might be leaving the Jets.
Yeah, Carl Lawson. I actually just saw this today, and Brad Biggs actually wrote about it. But yeah, because basically, here's Aaron Rodgers trying to get all these additions, all these, he's saying trying to get Randall Cobb, he's trying to get Alan Lazard, he's trying to get all these ex-Packers on the Jets, basically moving from one team just to play with the same exact guys as he lost every single NFC Championship game. Um, but Hey, Carl Austin, he's supposed to get paid $15 million this season, and only 333,000 $1,000 is guaranteed. So if they cut him, they are saving a crap ton of money,
Hmm.
and that obviously means they could cut him and trade him, um, and give him to us. So Lawson last season had 7 sacks and 24 quarterback hits. So he would be a very dynamic pass rusher that we could sign, honestly, probably for pretty cheap because he is getting up there in age. But I like this idea because he's a great pass rusher. Not the best run stuffer by any means. He's not really known for that. But again, I think we kind of have that groundwork of guys that can kind of step up and play in the run game with Green. And I can't believe I forgot the guy from Tennessee. Um, our the crazy guy. He's also a great run stuffer. So I think adding this pass rusher and Shaq Lawson would be good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Walker. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
Marcus Walker.
Walker could do it all. I think that's the big piece. Is Walker is someone that can do a whole bunch, and yeah, like I like the idea of Lawson if he's a free agent. And the big question is, would Poles do another trade? And I
Hmm.
don't really see that. I don't see him wanting to trade, especially when you look at the market. Like we just broke down. There's still a lot of people that they can just sign. So why not just sign one rather than trade for someone? I also couldn't see the Bears trading for Sweat besides just the trade. We all know that Ryan Poles has his number and Sweat is really good and great, some might say, but he's going to probably ask for elite money. And I
Yeah.
think that's where you kind of don't want him out there. It doesn't make sense to trade and then sign him to this gigantic deal. That's
Hmm.
where I don't really think that the only person that I'm interested in, not saying drop everything and trade him, I'm at least talking to Washington and talking to definitely talking to my training staff about Chase Young because I think that Chase Young, you know, Chase Young, what's with his knee? I think that's the big question is if you think what percentage of Chase Young are we getting? Because if we're getting rookie Chase Young, then heck yeah. But he had knee injuries. He had some knee surgeries. Chances are you're not getting 100% Chase Young. So what is that? He missed
Hmm.
about 2 seasons with that knee injury. And I push people like, what other? I mean, he's had some little nicks and injuries here and there, and I think that's the big concern. But if your medical staff is like, you know what, I'm not concerned. I think he's like, can you try him out? I think that's the big test. Can you test him? Because he has so much upside. If anything, I might just like lowball him. Be like, we
Yeah.
got this fourth from the Eagles. That's as much as we're doing. But
Yeah.
if the Bears staff feels like he checks out, he's got such a high ceiling. He could be a true superstar if he is healthy. And that's why to me, he's the only one from a trade perspective that you'd even just ponder and should look into, but not necessarily pull the trigger unless it's for the right price. Because chances are, actually, not chances are, you will have to pay him and he'll probably want a large contract and something like that. The
Hmm.
danger that you do play is if he plays this season and if he looks really good, don't trade for him. Keep your picks and see if he tests free agency, right? So if the Bears want to gamble and if it's for the right price, cool. But if it's for like a first, heck no. I don't want to sign up for that. I don't want to sign up for that at all. And yeah, Joseph's saying exactly you're not getting rookie Chase Young. I think that's the hardest. That's the thing.
Yeah.
He's
You're.
he's
Yeah.
baked up.
He
Amen.
produced. I and I think this is such a bit, and this is kind of I guess my theme for today after talking about Smoot, because man, I love Smoot. I love his versatility too. Great guy, but we have a guy like that where the team, like Jaguars fans, love him. All right, if you ask any Washington fan about Chase Young, they will look the other way and like walk away. They don't like Chase Young. And I think that's something to say of like if a fan base doesn't like a certain guy, like they did
Yeah.
something, they, obviously he had very high expectations. So, and he's not fulfilling it at all. And I mean, some Washington fans were saying even when he was out there, the team, you didn't see him making any differences. So that is where the knee, like, it could be playing a lot of his physical game, but also like when you have that many problems with the knee, like it's also a mental thing of can I even put weight on it,
That's a
like
good
things like
point.
that.
That's a really good point. You're the medical guy out of us two. You know significantly more than I do. I also do want to give the point of it's like as a Bears fan, Chase Young and Fields are friends, and it's like
Oh
that'd be
yeah,
awesome to see. But
true.
but it's like that's just emotion. That's emotion. That ain't logic. That's but it'd be cool. But yeah, it's maybe, and that's where I don't know all the intricate details about it. Do you sit them down and say, all right, because Dobbsy was talking about it, you'll have to have a extension in place, and you'd have to sit down and you'd have to go through all the physicals and everything like that. I think that's where it's it's too much. It's too
Mhm.
much, and so, but that's about does it for our show though today. We broke down offense is looking good. Defense is looking good from the D line. I think that the moral of the story, right? Let me go back to one of the things that we had. More edges, please. That's what we need. Just the moral of the story. Add some edges, add some defensive ends, get some help out there for our
Hey,
line.
hey, and I would say spend money and save the picks.
Yeah.
The trades would be fun. Like it would be fun to get a name like that or something, but realistically, we know Poles is going to do that. So let's spend the money on the free agent market, test the guys out, and hopefully they get some good returns on them.
Because at a minimum, they would go for minimum second round pick. Like minimum.
Yeah.
It's most likely would be a first. And that's just keep the picks because you don't
Hey,
know. I think that the Bears are going to be pretty good this year. We'll break down maybe next week we'll probably break down the actual schedule because that also kind of came out where they're playing and
mhm.
things like that.
Hey, Brad, one last thing. I guess I forgot to mention this, and that's something that is I do like with Shaq Lawson because if the Jets do cut him, which they probably are going to do anyways, if it was just kind of the Bears would only need to give up like a sixth or seventh round. Like they're not going to be giving up all this capital because the Jets are going to be getting rid of him anyways. So yeah.
Yeah. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Like,
Mhm.
hold on to the picks, see what happens, see what shakes out. We still have a crap ton of cap space next year. We're still number one in cap next year. So when Chase Young, when everybody else becomes available, sweats, we will have the money. But everyone, thanks again for another great show. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe out there on YouTube as we hit our quest for 2,000 and donate some money to a great charity that helps benefit people with mental illness. And with that Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.